Sometimes what we label as arrogance is actually self-trust, and sometimes what feels triggering is simply a mirror. Welcome back to Embodied with Sabrina Rose. Today is a quick episode, and I want to make sure this is understood. This is not a call out. It's a call in, a reflection of how our unhealed beliefs about worth can distort how we see others and ourselves. There's a story that has followed me for most of my life, that I think I'm better than others. I want to set the record straight, not to defend myself, but to bring understanding to something that's far more common than we admit. I don't think that I'm better than anyone, but I know I am not less than anyone. And for some reason, that distinction is deeply uncomfortable, not because of who I am, but because of what that steadiness reflects. I don't need others to fill a void in me. I don't look for permission to exist, to take up space, or to trust my own inner compass. And when someone doesn't require validation, approval, or emotional supplementation from the people around them, it can quietly unsettle those who learn somewhere along their journey that love must be earned, proven, or performed. This belief isn't a character flaw. It's a wound. When someone hasn't yet felt whole within themselves, the nervous system often defaults to comparison instead of curiosity. The mind looks for a narrative that restores equilibrium, and one of the easiest narratives is this: she thinks she's better than me. But that story isn't actually about superiority. It's your mind and body trying to create safety. Because if the discomfort can be externalized, if it can be made about me, then there's no need to look inward and ask the harder question: why don't I feel whole on my own? What's rarely acknowledged is that self-possession can feel confronting to those that are still outsourcing their worth, not because they're weak, broken, or incapable, but because at some point they learned that belonging required self-abandonment. So when they encounter someone who is at home in themselves, the contrast can feel like rejection, even when none is present. I want to be very clear. This has never been about comparison. It was never about me having more, knowing more, or being more. It was a reflection. And reflection only feels threatening when we haven't yet made peace with what we see. The irony is, the moment someone reconnects with their own wholeness, the story dissolves on its own. There's no longer a quote-unquote her to be threatened by, no imagined hierarchy to defend against, no mirror to push away. Because when you remember your own worth, other people's self-trust no longer feels like an accusation. It feels like permission. If you've ever felt triggered by someone's confidence, steadiness, or inner safety, I don't see that as something to judge or shame. I see that as information, an invitation, a signal pointing towards a part of you that's asking to be reclaimed. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of projection, misread, misunderstood, or quietly resented for simply being yourself, I hope this reminds you of something important. You don't need to shrink to make others comfortable, and you don't need to harden to protect yourself. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to remain neutral, open, and anchored, and trust that those that are ready will recognize the mirror, not as a threat, but as a guide.